Welcome to the Burnt Brass Homestead channel. The title of this video is, Do you have what it takes to become a homesteader? First and foremost, I do not want to discourage anyone from starting a homestead. It is actually my goal to encourage as many people as possible to become more self-sufficient and less dependent on the system. With that said, I hope this video will help provide a little insight into homesteading. Originally, homesteading was acquiring or settling on land under homestead laws. Today, homesteading is a lifestyle of self-sufficiency, regardless of where you live, city, suburb, or rural. Although I am biased to homesteading in rural areas because it just seems to have fewer limitations compared to that of the city and suburbs. So, what is living a more self-sufficient lifestyle? Simply put, less dependency on the system, supply chain, retail, stores, and or government. It means being more independent in providing one's own needs. Let's start with growing food. By growing much of our own food, we make fewer trips to the market, thus saving on gas and being much less impacted by the current inflation. The food that we eat is packed full of nutrients because we harvested when ripe and ready to eat. Gardening is probably the first step in homesteading. People start by growing tomatoes, cucumbers, lettuce, and or squash. There isn't much maintenance when gardening on a small scale, so it is doable even if you work a full-time job. Perhaps just growing enough food to harvest and eat during the growing season would be easy, which for many people the growing season ends early to mid-fall. Then there are homesteaders who grow enough food to harvest, eat, and preserve, which means more crops in the ground, more weeding, multiple harvests, and food preservation. This means more time dedicated to gardening. Then you have those like myself who garden all year round with a greenhouse. We also grow enough crops like peppers, potatoes, tomatoes, carrots, just to name a few, during the summer to get us through all or most of the winter until the next growing season. This means a lot more time dedicated to weeding, watering, harvesting, preserving, and replanting our crops so that we have crops going all year long. The more food independent you want to become means the more you grow, harvest, and preserve, and more time you would have to dedicate to spending in the garden, in addition to whatever else you do. But that's just gardening. If you add livestock into the mix, expect to dedicate even more time homesteading. We raise our own chickens for eggs and meat. Unlike gardening, livestock requires more daily attention. You can leave your garden for a few days to go on a very short vacation, but most livestock requires daily attention. Now for me, I originally designed the chicken coop so that the chickens can eat and drink for 3 days while I go on many camping trips. However, this may not be possible with other livestock such as goat, cattle, horses, just to name a few. So when you add livestock to your homestead, you are upping your game a bit and you are taking on more responsibility. You are responsible for the care and feed of your livestock. They are dependent on you like young children. Also, raising livestock is not for the squeamish. There are times when you have to put animals down as to not have them suffer. There are times when you must assist in animal birth or remove things like cysts. And if you are raising livestock for meat, well, you should be able to butcher your own animals. During the winter months, when it's cold, freezing, and icy, you must get up early to water and feed the animals, sometimes 2 to 3 times a day when temperatures are below freezing. Otherwise, their water would freeze, and animals should always have a fresh source of drinking water. Now, obviously, you can spend money on fancy gadgets to heat your water, but that just increases the cost of the homestead, which is fine either way. To me, gardening and raising livestock are probably the two most time-consuming and rewarding tasks on a homestead. And if you grow and butcher it, you must also cook and eat it, right? Which means cooking from scratch. No sense in investing so much time in your garden and raising livestock for food if you are going to go out and buy prepackaged foods with a bunch of chemicals and preservatives that's hard to pronounce. Preparing all or most of your meals from scratch takes more time than buying prepackaged meals. For example, we make our own breads, bagels, ramen noodle, soups, biscuits, pizza, including the pizza dough, all from scratch, and that takes time. Now, don't get me wrong, there are times when you actually have to go out, or that we go out and we may buy a meal if we're out, doing some task and won't have time to come back and cook. But those instances are few and far in between. But that's not it. Being self-sufficient can also mean making or mending your own clothes, reusing and repurposing items and scraps around the homestead. I just spent some time darning my husband's socks, not because we can't afford to buy new pairs of socks, but because there was nothing wrong with the current pair. It just had a little hole in the bottom, and I repaired it. I also repaired it for the practice of perfecting that skill, which can come in handy. You can even make money on your homestead by selling goods and services. So, as you can see, there are different levels of homesteading. So, in theory, homesteading can be for anyone. Simply make note of what you want to do, how much time you are willing to spend to dedicate to doing those tasks, and you're on your way. And before you say it's too expensive or you do not have the budget right now to start something as simple as gardening, check out my 2 videos on how to start a garden on an extremely tight budget. I will leave the links in the description box. So going back to the original question, do you have what it takes to homestead? The answer should be yes, whether on a small scale or a large scale, in the city, suburbs, or rural area, on a small plot of land or a large plot of land. Everyone has the ability to homestead. I hope this video was helpful. If so, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching.